Hey everybody, Jack Rita with Future Pastimes. In this video, I'm going to talk about 7 cosmic encounter aliens that started off as homebrews. I tried to limit the number of aliens that are from Cosmic Dominion, which is all homebrew, fan-designed aliens, but a couple of them are in here, and that's because they either had a long history of being a homebrew well before they made it into Cosmic Dominion, or I just really liked them, so I'm going to showcase those aliens. So we're going to start off with Angler. So this is from Cedric Chin. This started off as fish, and Cedric Chin is one of the most prolific Cosmic Encounter homebrew designers of yore. So this alien gets to play the game of Go Fish. So the way it works is you have the power to fish, and as a main player, before encounter cards are selected, you may use this power to ask any player on the opposing side, any player, not just the opposing main player, if they have a specific card, such as an attack 12, a regular negotiate, or the virus flare. So very specific cards. If that player has the card, they must give it to you. Otherwise, you must draw a card from the deck. And if that card that you draw from the deck is the card you asked for, then you may use this power a second time during this encounter. So very thematic. I think we added that you get to use it again thing during the Cosmic Dominion development, because we kind of felt like, yeah, it's pretty apropos of the game of fish. If you actually draw what you asked for, you do get to go again. So now the reason the name was changed, Bill Martinson felt like fish is something that has going to go fish. Didn't make sense. It should be somebody who is catching a fish, therefore an angler. I think fish, what do fish eat? They eat other fish. So I was fine with it either way. But everyone else seemed to like angler too, so that was fine. The artwork is really fun. It has the little ships hanging off there, glowing as a way to lure in. So yeah, Angler is a fun alien to play, especially in a game where you've got some elements of card knowledge, or you have found ways to get to the bottom of certain things so that you know what's out there. Somebody plays a particular flare. They take cards from you in compensation. Those are easy to go after. And sort of a Hail Mary too. You're like, oh, I really need this particular card, so I'm going to ask for it so that I can at least find out if somebody has it or if they don't have it. So that is Angler, and Angler is from Cosmic Dominion. Our next alien, also in Cosmic Dominion, from Warren Denning, is Engineer. And what's fun about Engineer is that this is one of the rare aliens that uses another variant for Cosmic Encounter, which is something that the Fantasy Flight Edition does not do. So the Eon Edition and the Mayfair Edition, they had a lot of Lucre aliens, which you really could only use if you were using Lucre. So Fantasy Flight didn't want to do that. But with Engineer, it's built into it, whether you're using technology, and that's what variant Engineer likes to use. Whether technology is part of the game or not, Engineer is workable. So let's take a look. You have the power of technology. As a main player, when you lose an encounter or fail to deal, you may use this power, and you're going to draw 2 tech cards from the technology deck, even if it is not otherwise in play. So there you go. You may choose one of the drawn cards to place face down on this sheet. If you do not do so, and another tech, if you do so and another tech was already on the sheet, the new one replaces it. The techs that you do not keep are discarded. Now, you may research the tech on the sheet normally and or count your ships in the warp towards its research cost. So that is what really supercharges Engineer. When the tech is completed, move it off of the sheet. Ships counted from the warp do not return to colonies when the researching is done, but they may be used for effects such as Cold Sleep Ship or Genesis Bomb. If this power or a tech on it is stolen or discarded, any ships that were researching it are returned to colonies. So this is a really, this is an alien that's going to get something for losing, which is not one of my favorite things, but I do like that it's going to pack a punch. So you're drawing 2, you're going to pick the one that is most useful to you. and it really can change things up for you in an interesting way, especially because if you've lost an encounter, you're probably putting some ships into the warp, which means that the research fee is going to be paid off much more quickly. Now, when you're using engineer in a game that has techs from Cosmic Odyssey, like the mill tech and the has techs, it's going to be a little bit different. And so we'll go into that in a separate video, but like the Miltech, the ships in the warp aren't going to help you, but you can still choose a Miltech. You can still have that on here and use it. So I like engineer. The art is really good for this particular alien. So that is the number 2 alien. So moving on to number 3 is Fido. Designed by Brandon Friels. And this is probably the best known homebrew and that was around for a long time. It made a lot of everyone's top 10 homebrew lists. It was posted, I believe, to the news group, so way back in the day, probably in the 90s. And this is a fan favorite. Everyone seems to like it. People who are brand new to Fido will often underestimate it. They're like, oh, I don't know, this doesn't seem that good. But it is good. So let's take a look. Power to fetch. So after encounter cards are discarded at the end of encounter, so that's any old encounter, you may use this power to retrieve one of the discarded cards and offer it to another player. So it's retrieving discarded encounter cards. If the card is refused, you may keep it. And if the card is accepted, the other player keeps the card, and then you may either retrieve one ship from the warp or draw one card from the deck. So it's a little bit like getting a reward, although it's clearly not worded as reward. So the reward deck is off limits. But encounter cards from the reward deck that are discarded are fair game, in my opinion. So this is really interesting, even if you don't have certain aliens in the game. So let's say, for instance, antimatter. Antimatter, you can pick up the attack 40 and say, hey, would you like this? And antimatter probably is going to say no. So that's more of an edge case. You know, if you're retrieving a really powerful card and offering it to somebody, they're probably going to take it. So that's you know, neither here nor there. You can offer good cards to other players because that means that you're going to be able to get something of an unknown quantity from the deck. And sometimes what you're going to get is garbage, but sometimes you'll get something good and nobody knows that you have it. And Fido should be prepared to be an alien that is probably going to have a fairly large hand because you can retrieve the garbage cards just to fill up your hand with them. So, and like somebody's like, all right, do you want this attack 8? And they're probably going to be like, I don't think I do. So Fido is probably going to take those. It just depends on what is discarded. So if you need ships, if you're running low on ships as Fido, you can retrieve a good card and offer it to somebody. And they'll probably take it, but that gives you the opportunity to get another ship out. So Fido probably not going to be hurting for cards, probably not worried about anyone taking compensation from them. And then if you've got an alien like Angler in the game, well, then you can work out some deals here where you're like, all right, you know, I'm gonna offer this card to them, and Angler, you know that they have it, so you'll be able to get it, and let's make some deals. So I enjoy Fido. I think it's a good. It's base game alien. So everyone who has the Fantasy Flight edition of Cosmic Encounter has it, as well as this one. So this is Human, and Human is a homebrew from the Dukester. And I think that maybe Kevin Wilson collaborated a little bit with him on it. But the Dukester used to be a very vocal Cosmic Encounter fan. He had an interesting website where he wrote articles about things in the cosmic universe, especially speculating on stuff or wish list things. He really wanted a digital version of Cosmic you could play on a tablet, and so do I, but that's probably far off in the future for now. Interesting, Dukester had an article that was, are there really any good homebrews, or are those ideas done? And I took it as a personal challenge to keep continuing before I officially became part of Future Pastimes, and was able to contribute a lot of new homebrew ideas to the different expansions over the years. So I've had a number of them included, and it's a mix of, this is one that was around for a while and here's a new one. And it's interesting, when Kevin Wilson came on, he really opened the door to new alien ideas and new concepts, and things like aliens that will move or do something with an individual planet, and aliens that use tokens for things. And that opened up a lot of design space for a lot of people. So I think human is a really good and very underestimated alien. I've done a whole video on some underestimated aliens, and human was on that one. And it is that +4, even just the +4 alone. A lot of people just to forget about it. They're like, oh, and they're like, oh, look at that, I'm winning. And you're like, well, actually, no, you're losing by 2 or whatever because of human. They're like, oh, I forgot about human. So the +4, it's not impressive, but it sneaks in there. And of course, I'm going to cosmic zap you to automatically win the encounter. And that's basically, that's all of that right there. So you're adding a +4 as a main player or an ally. And if you get cosmic zapped, then your side automatically wins the encounter. And that's meant to represent the fact that humans, while otherwise unimpressive compared to all of these other alien species, they're somehow able to pull these miraculous wins out of the jaws of defeat. So I like it. I think it's clever. It's an interesting thing. It uses Cosmic Zap in a unique and different way, which I like. Cosmic Encounter is a game that breaks its own rules. That's the whole point. So I love an alien that breaks the Cosmic Zap rule and turns it completely on its head. So yes, human is a really useful, interesting alien. Just on our most recent Cosmic Encounter Invitational, being able to zap the human, that happened quite a few times in that game. So moving on, from Cosmic Conflict, we have Industrialist. So this started off as an alien that was submitted to Encounter magazine during the Eon days. It's from James Beach and James Rasfield. And then it did get published in the Mayfair edition. It was changed a little bit from its original version, and Kevin Wilson changed it a bit again for the Fantasy Flight edition. But this is a powerful alien. It's another alien that is in the get something for losing realm. So we take a look at this. Power to build. As a main player, after you lose an encounter in which you have revealed an attack card, your opponent must either allow you to win the encounter instead of losing, or else allow you to place your attack card face up on your sheet, adding it to your stack. Your stack is not part of your hand, cannot be drawn, blah, blah, blah. As a main player, after you reveal an attack card, use this power to either add or subtract the total of all of the face-up attack cards in your stack from your side's total. For instance, if you have an attack 8 and an attack 12 on the sheet, you would add or subtract 20. So that, as you can well imagine, is an alien that, even with a couple of mid cards, kind of mediocre cards, I played in a 6, I played an 8, I lost the encounter. That's a +6 and a +8. That +6 already is more than human is bringing. That +8 is double. And then if you have both of them, you're adding those together. And I was in a game once with Industrialists while I played the 23 against Antimatter on purpose, so that I had a 23, and Antimatter could have just let me win the encounter, but said, what do I care? Because he was just focused on adding, but the fact that you can subtract meant that came back to haunt Antimatter in a big way. So it is an interesting alien. It gets very powerful. So you really are faced with that dilemma of, do I let Industrialist win just so I can prevent them from adding another card to their absurd amount that they can add on there? Because those cards don't go away. You add them on, it's not like, oh, now your stack goes away. It doesn't. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. So that's how that works. All right, from Cosmic Dominion, we have Tourist from Jefferson Crow. This is Jefferson's finest alien design, so it had to be included in here. It's another quirky alien with really fun art. Tourist is going to have a cruise liner token, and I actually, for me, I used the original Prometheus token because I have a Prometheus ship. So I like that one a little bit better than the strange, almost triangle token from Dominion. So during the game setup, and each time a cruise liner enters your system, you may move up to 4 of your ships from your home colonies onto it. So tourist is going to be putting some ships on their cruise liner, and then that cruise liner will be sent off into the cosmos. So you have the power to sightsee. At the end of the Destiny phase, if any hazard warnings were drawn during this encounter, use this power to send one of your ships to the warp from the cruise liner. So that's sort of some bureaucracy there. Here's where we get to the real part. If no hazard warnings are drawn, use this power to move the cruise liner 1 ship clockwise or counterclockwise. So this is how you move. It's by Destiny. Then, if the cruise liner is in the defensive system and you do not already have a colony in that system, you may use this power to disembark all of your ships from the cruise liner to any one planet there. If for some reason you do not disembark, so you're just choosing not to, or you can't, you already have a colony there, you may use this power to send a postcard home. Return 1 ship from the cruise liner to any of your colonies, and then take a card at random from the hand of that system's player. So Tourist has got a few things going on, but what they're really trying to do is they're trying to get their cruise liner into a system that is going to give them a free colony. And so a free colony is great. And then, of course, if that doesn't work, you can always go for a random card drawn from a player. So that's also pretty good. The cost, of course, is that you're moving ships, and the only way to reload your cruise liner is to get it back to your system. So depending on the number of players and a lower player count, Tourist is going to be really happy because it's much easier for them to get to the targeted system as well as back to their own. Of course, then in a lower player count, you're going to have a colony in everyone's system before too long. So in a higher player count, Tourist is going to be able to keep doing that more often. So it's an interesting push and pull with Tourist, which is why I like it. And it's just one of those aliens where you feel like, all right, I'm doing my own little thing here, and that's kind of fun as well. You're still part of the game at large, but you're having your own little mini game, which is a lot of fun. And then finally, also from Cosmic Dominion, as Tourist was as well, we have Usurper, and this is an alien from Brian Stout, also been around for a long time, posted to the news group. I actually got to play Cosmic Encounter with Brian Stout at my house on a Cosmic Encounter International Day a few years back, and that was a blast. Had a great time. So I was really keen to get one of Brian's aliens into Cosmic Dominion. The alien that we settled on was called Federalist. We thought could probably come up with a better name, and our OCD staff on Cosmic Dominion was quite keen to get an alien that started with the letter U. So we went with Usurper. We had to kind of tweak the history to make it feel more like a usurper than a federalist. So if you're really into those definitions, you'll be like, it's not quite a lateral move, but it's an interesting alien. So let's take a look at what it does. Power to accroach. As a main player, you may use this power immediately after encounter cards are selected before any other game effects that apply after card selection. Every ally must play 1 encounter card face down from their hand, first drawing a new hand if they're out of encounter cards. So nobody gets out of their duty working for the Usurper. Look at the cards played by your allies. You may select one of them to replace your encounter card. Furthermore, you may select one of the opposing allies' cards without looking at them to replace your opponent's card. All replaced and unused cards return to their owner's hands, and the encounter continues. If a main player's encounter card selection is forced by a game effect such as Oracle, Magician, or Visionary, this power does not affect that player's allies. So, tried to put a little bit of a clause in there. That's Bill Martinson paying very close attention to the interaction and edge case possibilities. But yes, this is a really interesting alien. I love Usurper because if you're a main player and you don't have particularly good encounter cards, or you're facing somebody that doesn't mix well with what you have to play, your allies can come to your rescue, and you can signal that. You can be like, somebody wants to be my ally. You're going to have to to let me know, assure me that you have a good card that I might be able to use. Furthermore, if you are encountering somebody who does have, is known to have a good hand, or they have a lot of cards, maybe they have a lot of reward cards as well, so who knows what they're going to be able to play. If they have invited other people to their side, they may be forced to use one of their encounter cards. And because, Usurper is going to be, like, oh, maybe I will, maybe I won't. You still, facing Usurper, you still need to make sure that you're playing your best card for that situation, depending on how you want it to go. You can't rely on them to choose one of your allies' cards. So it gives you some interesting possibilities. Now, there were many people who thought that this was going to replace Delegator, which has a similar effect, but it's not quite the same. And you can have both of these aliens in the game. The Delegator just changes who's the main player and who is the ally. So the ally will end up playing the card. But here with the Usurper, everybody's still playing the card. So it's just who is the main player is what changes with Delegator. So I actually enjoy having both of them in the game just for the mind games. So yeah, Usurper, great alien. This was not supposed to be the Usurper's art. It was art for a different alien. But we think it works pretty well, and so I see it, I immediately know Usurper. It looks like a Usurper to me in many ways. So I'm happy to have that art in there. No complaints here. So those are 7 of my favorite Yellow Alert homebrew aliens that finally did get published. If you've got some that you like, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Tell me why you like those. Tell me what you think of these aliens, and I might try to finagle a game where they're all going to be in the game. Although, again, anytime I've got Usurper, I'm like, how do I get Delegator in there too? Because it's just so delicious to have them in there. So, yeah, keep designing your home brews. There's no guarantee that they'll ever get published, but you never know. I mean, there was a couple of editions ago that some of these were designed, and they did finally make it in, which makes me very happy as somebody who got started in board game design, just making my own aliens for Cosmic Encounter, and then one day finally seeing them get published. It's definitely worth pursuing. That's it for this video, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.